Hello, I'm your host, Efi Pylarinou, and today I have the pleasure to have with us Helen Yu. Welcome, Helen. It's a pleasure to connect with you.
Likewise, Efi. Such a pleasure being here with you today.
Yeah, so Helen, I mean, we've been connected and interacting on LinkedIn for a very long time. I look forward to meeting you in person. Helen Yu is a tech influencer. She's the host of CXO Spice, a newsletter and a YouTube channel. She is the author of a best-selling book, Ascent Your Startup. We'll have the opportunity to talk about the book. And of course, we're going to talk about the fact that she is on the board of several Fortune 500 companies. More interestingly, some of them are AI focused, which is a topic that we all are focused on right now. And Helen is the founder of her own advisory, Tigon Advisory. Helen, I'm sure there's much more to add to this. Can you please give us a little bit more background about your journey and about your book?
Hi, Efi. So delighted to be here with you. I prefer not to talk so much about me, as a matter of fact, but that being said, I've really gone through the journey, a non-traditional journey, right, with my career. Started off as a content financial analyst, learned how to code early my stage, career stage, and pivoted. I made two pivots with my career. The first pivot was from a bean counter to a bean grower. Really shifted from being analyst, financial analyst to a coder, and later on to lead sales, and then global customer success, and then professional service team in that chief customer officer capacity. The second pivot I made was shifting or pivoting from a corporate leader to an entrepreneur. So I was with Oracle for 12 years, Adobe and Marketo for 7 years, and 6 years ago, I started my own company. We first really provide, when we started the company, I dived into AI deployment at global financial institution immediately. And then our company really provided fractional CXO services to startups. And then we pivoted recently during the pandemic to, working with Fortune 500 brands. So you can tell from my journey, constantly pivoting and learning new things. And my principle is to learn one new thing each year. So this year has been a really fruitful year. I joined the board, right? Kinfolks was a new board. I joined as independent board of director. They're headquartered in Spain. They are a integrative AI agency that really help companies leveraging generative AI, help companies automating their marketing, content creation process. And then I also been with Pipestream, another AI company based out of New York. I've been on their advisory board since 2018, I believe 2019. So has been a long journey working with them. And then there's a conversational AI company that they help companies to automate and enhance customer experience. It's really phenomenal. I'm also a vice chair for Global Cybersecurity Association, which I devote quite a bit of time. That's actually based out of Zurich, if that's where you are at. So it has been tremendous amount of learning for me personally, and really rewarding journey so far.
Excellent. And this all connects, AI with all its potential and all the advancements, but at the same time, all the security issues and other concerns around it that have to keep pace with these advancements. This is actually the topic that I want to focus with you today. There are so many topics that we could talk about together, but I wanted to really dive into risk management of AI systems, which is a topic I've seen you address and talk about in different capacities. First, I wanted to ask you, when and why did this become an important issue at the enterprise level?
Well, that's a phenomenal question, Efi. So let's take a ride with the time machine and travel back together to the late 20th century and early 2000s. Back then, AI systems were just starting out, and they were pretty rule-based and limited in what they could do, right? The risk management at the time was all about traditional IT systems or keeping things secure. And then fast forward to the mid 2000 and early 2010s, machine learning and AI that learned from data were gaining popularity. People were starting to talk about the potential biases and ethical issues that could pop up in AI systems, but managing those risks was still in its infant stage. And then as we rolled into the late 2010s, things started to get interesting. Remember, machine learning and deep learning took off like rockets, and AI spread like wildfire across different industries. But there were some hiccups along the way, right? Some high-profile cases showed that AI could be biased or make questionable ethical choices. This got everyone talking and really thinking about the importance of managing AI risks. Then regulatory bodies and industry groups joined the conversation. They started putting out guidelines and principles about how AI should be used ethically and safely. And companies were like, hey, we need to start looking into AI specific risks, especially from the board perspective. Now we're talking 2020 and beyond. People were getting more and more worried about AI ethics and rules surrounding it, especially generative AI exposed us, right? And then business got serious about tackling AI risk head on. So they began crafting detailed frameworks to manage those risks and covering everything from the technical nitty-gritty to the legal and ethical considerations. Regulations that, like the EU, as a matter of fact, EU AI Act and various ethics guidelines, were basically varying the big flags about the need to manage AI risk responsibly. And new tools started popping up to help companies understand how AI made decisions and whether they were on the up and up. So businesses really didn't just stop at managing AI risk as a one-off thing. They started integrating AI risk assessment into their broader strategies for managing all kinds of risks across the company. In a nutshell, it has been a journey from AI's humble beginnings to these massive leaps in technology. We've learned that managing AI risk is crucial for making sure we're using these powerful tools in the right way.
Amazing. And as you said, it's a race and it's not uniform, right, across different regions and different industries, depending on the ones that are regulated, the ones that are more sensitive, like, finance and health sectors are always much more sensitive to these issues, right, than consumer and retail.
Yeah, you're right on. As a matter of fact, McKinsey recently had a State of AI Risk 2023 report. In that report, they showed that only 20% of companies have AI risk practice in place today, despite of the attention.
Yes, they can't even catch up, right? Things are happening so fast. Helen, you have written and spoken about a specific AI risk management framework, the NIST AI Risk Management Framework for AI. Can you tell us a little bit about it? As I understand, it is a structured approach, so it should help us think of it as a blueprint, an example. I'm sure there are other frameworks too.
Yeah, absolutely. For those of us in the cybersecurity field, the NIST, that's National Institute of Standards and Technology, is nothing really new. However, the NIST AI Risk Management Framework, called AI RMF, was developed recently in collaboration with the private and public sectors to better manage AI associated risk. The framework is basically split into two main parts. in the first part, it dives into how organizations can tackle the risk tied to AI. So it really talks about who this framework is meant for. They take a deep look at AI risk and what makes AI worthy of trust. They outline the key features of reliable AI, like being accurate and safe, keeping data secure, being accountable and clear, easy to understand, respectful of privacy, and fair without any harmful biases. And then the second part, this is where the heart of framework lies, right? It introduces 4 specific actions: govern, map, measure, and manage. These are like tools in the toolbox that organizations can use to handle AI risk in real world. The govern part applies across an organization's AI risk management processes, while the map, measure, and manage actions are more tailored to specific AI systems and stages in their development. Each industry, really are different, right? So the framework got some other cool points too. It's big on keeping records of AI systems, everything from how they were built to where the data comes from and how decisions are made. It's all about being transparent. And speaking of transparency, the framework encourages setting clear roles and responsibility for different folks involved in AI, like developers, users, and other key stakeholders. One of the neat things about this framework is that it gives advice on developing AI in an ethical way and managing risk smartly. It's like a guidebook to help organizations make AI people can really trust and rely on. So thinking back of the days when I started deploy AI, even 6 years ago at a global institution, I had to do all these things manually, literally, right? Documenting, getting internal buy-in, and we really start with the soliciting the use case from the user. So the framework really helps you automate that entire process and then have an audit trail for documented process and practices.
And it's very important now with these foundation models that are behind, generative AI or these large language models, because they can be used for all sorts of applications, right? They're not like traditional AI, which is very task specific. So it's important to keep this accountability at all the levels, which I guess before was not even a concern, right? It wasn't that important in what we would call traditional AI implementations in the past.
I would say it has always been a concern. However, generative AI allows us to gain more exposure without having the technical background, right? That made a huge difference. So, we were concerned, but we did not know how and where to start. Now, generative AI exposed that, right? We can get our hands on and get a feel about AI. So now we know what to do with it. And we know we have to do something with it, right? It's more tangible. That's the difference generative AI made to the society and the AI, I would say AI community.
So are there any guidelines that you would suggest for the C-suite and the boards to implement some structured approaches like the NIST AI RMF approach?
Yeah, since we just talked about this framework, so let me break it down how this framework can actually roll out within an organization from the C-suite down to the boardroom and beyond. And then here are 7 steps I recommend, right? The first, you should really wrap your head around the AI and governance. This is about internal education, right? AI literacy. This means understanding the pros and cons of AI and how it could affect organization strategy, day-to-day operations, and reputation, your brand's reputation, folks who care about what organization does as well. And the second thing is it's all about setting up the practices and rules. You want to make sure, there's clear policies, processes, and ways of doing things when it comes to dealing with AI-related risk. They're like the referee, making sure the AI game is played fair and secure, square. So that means you have to define what that means, right? Each organization function, might have their own definition, so you can tailor that specific to your business need. And then third is the ethical, right? I would use this framework as ethical compass, making sure AI gets used in a way that's responsible and fair, and keeping tabs on things like bias, privacy and security. So I usually start with the data sources, right? What are the data going to be involved in whatever AI initiative you have? And then you define, is it confidential data or sensitive data, whatever nature of the data is, who are going to be, where data source coming from, and who are the consumer for those sources. So it's very critical for you to well define that using the framework to define as a guiding principle, from risk management perspective. And then let's dive into the nitty-gritty. I talked about earlier the govern, map, measure, and manage, right? So the governance is all about thinking about how you frame the risk. As a board member, you have to understand the risk tolerance, because it depends on the industry you are in, depends on the culture of the company. The risk tolerance might be different. Does not mean you can do things or bend the rules, but then you have to understand what that is. For non-mission critical initiatives, maybe you can bend the rule a little bit more, but for mission critical and sensitive information, you have to absolutely, make sure you follow the risk guideline, right? So that's the governance part. And then for mapping is about understanding the lay of the land. You assess, mapping out the potential risks and rewards for every piece of AI tech that your company plan to use, and including the staffs from outside partners, right? Because you may have suppliers or third party involved, and then they're all about understanding how using AI might affect individuals, groups, communities, and society. So making sure you zoom out and to see the bigger picture too. And then when it comes to measurement, I always say you gotta have a benchmark. You need to know where the starting point is, right? Making sure you know where you're at now, specifically to, the AI we all know should be really narrowed down to a specific use case, because you cannot have a broad brush to measure AI success at a global level until you have to, you really nail down the specific use case and then measure the success at that level. And then when it comes to manage, it's really about, they want to make sure sync with what organization is trying to achieve when you manage the risk. This is about human in the loop oversights. You cannot just rely on machine. You write the algorithm, let it run, right? But you need to make sure there's transparency. You need to make sure you manage data effectively. You have someone or people with oversight to ensure AI really operates in a way that that you would like that to operate in a way that's more responsibly. That's being said, we all know data is so critical, right? Garbage in, garbage out. You want to make sure the sample data or set of data does represent what you like to achieve, and then it does not have the bias. So making sure everyone really who matters has a really scoop, and then they're fostering a culture of teamwork, innovation. So communications throughout the risk management is super important, from the board to the CEO to the executive level to everybody within the organization, to third parties who are involved in the AI deployment. And then you want to make sure you get them all educated, and then making sure they're all on the same page. If AI is involved in the process, they need to be aware. They need to know what data you're collecting, from where, and how the data is being used, right? And that's how, how you can mitigate the risk in general.
I hear you, the word risk is echoing in our conversation. And I can't help but think, in finance, at the end of the day, financial service providers are all about managing risk. Whether it's capital flows at one level or another, it is really about managing risk. And I'd love to see some real deployments in financial services, lending comes to mind, credit worthiness decisions, which is a classic one, using AI, machine learning already being used, but now we are at the level where we can use also these new advanced transformer models and see how we can trust them in such important decisions. Are there any examples of financial institutions or providers, be it traditional or more innovative, that are already using, that you're aware of, this NIST AI RMF framework, or is it still early?
Well, I would say it's still really early. I've actually spent almost my entire career working with financial institutions, from designing, building financial planning systems to AI deployment. I can't share the name and details because of the NDAs. However, I can tell you it has been a journey, quite a bit of journey for many larger financial institutions, especially the banks and insurance companies these days. And I'm very pleased to see the progress they've made, right? As a personal consumer of JP Morgan Chase, I can tell you, it has come a really long way. And I enjoy the mobile banking, right? I can use that to deposit, to do many things. But one example I can share with you, I was at VMware Explorer, listening to the keynote, taking the cloud smart approach, harnessing the power of generative AI yesterday. During this keynote, Aon, the CIO, Rajiv, shared how Aon is striking a balance between digital innovation and risk management, right? So that's, to me, I call the strategy playing offense and defense. Aon cloud strategy involves the strengths of two strategic cloud service providers and private cloud. Multi-cloud is what we're talking about. Achieving that right equilibrium between business capability, agility, cost, and security, it sounds easy, but it's hard to do, right? So they embraced the opportunity brought by generative AI. Rajiv talks about the importance of responsible AI integration in their risk consulting business. So what interesting really resonated with me is like they create a platform to allow employees to really share their idea, right? There are 50 sounding ideas there, and then they reviewed each of them. They cherry picked 5 out of 50 ideas, and then they create the demo to demonstrate the senior leader to get their buy-in first. And then they that completely changed their go-to-market strategy, enhanced collaboration between IT and business leaders, right? I would say one of the advantages of generative AI is you can see and feel how it works, right? The potential outcome. So that gives people more confidence, because in the old days when I started deploying AI, you have to have technical background to write the code. You load the data, you wait for the model to learn, and then sometimes you wait for days or hours for the data to return for you to see if the algorithm was accurate, and then you go back and tweak again. You wait for another day or hours. So that, with generative AI today, right, the potential is that you can see the instant result, and then people can really see this. So this approach, I find it very fascinating, because this not new, but this is something financial institutions can all leverage. You can cherry pick the non-mission critical initiatives, and then really build a tiny palette without putting so much investment effort, and then get internal buy-in, tie that to your priorities, align that investment accordingly, and then you can put in like further investment and or resources to expand that pilot, right? So that would be a good guideline, and assuming you follow the guiding principle from risk management perspective, and then that could be a really good way to go within the financial institutions.
It seems to me, Helen, that also, this era where we got a real hands-on sense of the power of these models because of, the easiness and the mass adoption and exposure of ChatGPT and other such applications, that has really helped people understand and there's no sort of any more this intellectual, if you want, blockage that, oh, I don't know if this is going to work. We've seen how it works. We understand that there's pros and cons, that it's early, but we got a first-hand sense of it, and we'll never go back. We see that there's potential to this, and I think that that will help a lot, the agility in terms of the culture in teams, within, you know, amongst employees. They'll be more open to experiment, and there'll be more agile work in a way that didn't exist before.
Yeah, that's a salient point. If, as a matter of fact, I'm launching the CXO Spice talk. The topic is activating generative AI, featuring Mindy Cancela at Dell Technology, right? So right after this, and you'll see that being launched. So that's exactly to your point. As a matter of fact, the evolution, right, in a good way, help us build a culture of curiosity, culture of I would say culture of agility, more make it really give us the speed, right, to make decision in almost in real time. And there are tons of opportunities to automate the repeatable tasks that we do. So it's just, I'm optimistic about the power of AI, assuming we manage that. We follow the risk management guiding principle, and then using the tool, responsibly.
Yes, I mean, there's always, at every point in time, there's always these risks, and let's not forget that we humans have the choice here. We can't blame it on the technology, right? It's Absolutely. Our choice, and this is a responsibility. Helen, I'd like to close this conversation with a more of a personal question, as I feel that always in the summer there's a change, an even bigger change than we talk about when the year changes, and we all make these new sort of commitments and the new plans. I feel that in the summer there's more time to reflect, and it's also, I don't know, the long days, the bright light that makes us feel ready to change. So what summer reflections can you share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Before I share that, I do want to share my ABCs when it comes to AI risk management, right? My A is the alignment of AI with quality data. AI, as we all know, relies on feeding it top-notch data, right? Remember, garbage in, garbage out. And my B is business-minded deployment with really caution. When deploying AI, make sure it really lines up with business goals and bringing that measurable impact, and then tackle risk like disinformation or bias. The lastly is my C is a collective effort. You have to make that a collective effort, making sure the risk is not only about finding the right balance, evaluating the cost benefits and impacts. It's a team effort involving a diverse group to ensure shared responsibility. So thank you for asking me about I have a personal touch here. I actually just moved from Chicago to Las Vegas in the summer. And moving from Chicago to Vegas was a journey that highlighted just how much work goes into this seemingly straightforward changes. It felt like a crash course in supply chain challenges, where every step held its own surprise, from ordering something as simple as shades for the new place, right, to the intricacies of buying, assembling furniture. Every aspect echoed the complexities of digital transformation. Much like how digitizing processes might seem simple on the surface, but involves a deep rethinking of operations, this move required careful planning, adapting to unforeseen hurdles, and ultimately realizing that even seemingly small changes can set off a cascade of adjustments. So it was a tangible reminder of how seemingly minor shifts can reveal the hidden intricacies that mirror the challenges of driving the digital innovation within an organization. So my suggestion or recommendation is stick to your 3 Ps: purposeful, patient, and persistent.
Excellent. That is a wonderful principle, the 3 Ps to keep in mind. And again, I want to thank you, Helen, for taking the time. And I look forward to meeting you in person soon.
Yeah, likewise, Efi, such a pleasure being here with you today. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.